Ethan Cole sat in his office, staring at the numbers on the screen. The numbers did not lie. His company, Cole Dynamics, was dying. Investors were gone, clients had pulled out, and his accounts were almost empty. He had built the company from nothing, and now it was falling apart right in front of him. Outside, rain poured against the glass windows. The sound mixed with the steady ticking of the clock on the wall. Every second felt heavier than the last. His assistant, Mia, entered the room quietly. Holding a stack of papers, her face was pale, her eyes filled with worry. "Ethan," she said softly, "the bank called again. They said they'll freeze the accounts tomorrow if we don't make the payment." Ethan rubbed his forehead. Feeling a headache growing behind his eyes, he wanted to scream, to throw something, but he just sat still, staring at the floor. "We'll find a way," he whispered. But even he didn't believe his own words. Mia placed the papers on his desk and hesitated. "Maybe you should call Mr. Vance again," she said, referring to their main investor. "Maybe he'll reconsider." Ethan shook his head slowly. "Vance is done with us," he said. "Everyone is." "They think we're finished." He leaned back in his chair, closing his eyes for a moment. He could still remember the excitement when he started the company. The laughter, the late nights, the big dreams. Now, everything had turned into silence and fear. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Mia opened it, but no one was there. Only a black briefcase sitting neatly on the floor. A tag hung from the handle with his name written on it. Ethan Cole. Mia frowned. "Who left this?" she asked, looking up and down the hallway. No one was around. The corridor was empty. Ethan stood up and pulled the case inside. His heart racing, something about it felt wrong. But curiosity pushed him forward. He placed it on his desk, clicked the locks open, and slowly lifted the lid. Inside was money. Stacks and stacks of $100 bills neatly arranged. A faint smell of metal and leather filled the air. On top of the cash lay a single white envelope. Ethan picked it up, his fingers trembling. He opened it and read the short message inside. "For your silence, more will come if you agree. Do not contact anyone, we will be watching," Mia gasped. "Ethan, this is crazy." Who would send this? Ethan stared at the message again and again. $500,000 just sitting in front of him. His mind raced, and with that money, he could save his company, pay the debts, and keep his employees working, but the note chilled him. "For your silence," it said. "Silence about what?" Mia stepped back, shaking her head. "Don't touch it, Ethan. This could be a setup. Maybe it's from someone trying to trap you." Ethan closed the briefcase slowly. "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe it's a second chance." The next few hours passed in tense silence. Ethan sat at his desk, staring at the briefcase. He thought about his team. The people who believed in him, the ones who had worked day and night. He thought about his father, who had always said, "A man's choices define him." And he thought about Mia standing in the doorway, watching him with fearful eyes. By midnight, the storm outside had grown stronger. Thunder rolled over the city. Lightning flashed across the windows. Ethan was still awake, still staring at the briefcase. He hadn't told anyone else. Not even his accountant. If he took the money, he could save everything. But if it was dirty money, he could lose everything, and even his freedom. Suddenly his phone buzzed on the desk. An unknown number flashed on the screen. He hesitated, then answered. A deep voice spoke on the other end. "Calm and confident, Mr. Cole," the voice said. "You received our gift. I trust you understand what's at stake." Ethan froze. "Who are you?" he asked. The voice ignored the question. "You have one choice, Mr. Cole. Take the money and rebuild your company, or lose everything by sunrise. But remember, if you refuse, we'll find someone else who won't." Then the line went dead. Ethan stared at his phone, his heartbeat pounding in his ears. Mia rushed into the room. "Ethan, are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." He didn't answer. He just looked at the briefcase again. It was like it was staring back at him, whispering promises of safety, success, and survival. Outside, the storm screamed against the glass. Inside, Ethan faced the biggest decision of his life. Take the secret money and save everything, or stay honest and lose it all. He stood up, walked to the window, and looked down at the city lights. Each one reminded him of the people depending on him. He could save them all if he just said yes, but his gut twisted with fear. What if this money came from something dark? What if they were watching him right now? Mia's voice broke the silence, trembling but firm. "Ethan, please, whatever this is, it's not worth it. Don't do something you can't undo." He turned toward her slowly. His expression unreadable. For a moment he seemed ready to agree. But then the phone rang again. The same unknown number. He hesitated, then picked it up. A whisper came through the speaker, cold and sharp. "We know you got the money, Mr. Cole. Don't make the wrong choice." The line went silent, leaving only the sound of the rain. Ethan looked at the briefcase. Mia looked at him. And choices. He think choice 1, take the secret money and save the company. Choice 2, refuse it and face total ruin. The night after the call, Ethan Cole barely slept. Every sound made him jump. Every flicker of light made him think someone was watching. The briefcase sat on the table like a living thing, whispering promises and threats all at once. He had hidden it under the floorboard before sunrise, but even that didn't stop the unease. The words from the phone echoed in his head. "We know you got the money." By morning, the storm had passed, leaving behind a pale gray sky. Mia walked into the office early, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Her eyes showed she hadn't slept either. "Ethan," she said quietly, "we can still go to the police. It's not too late." Ethan shook his head slowly. "They said they're watching, Mia. If this is some kind of network, reporting it could make things worse," Mia frowned. "And taking their money makes it better?" Before Ethan could answer, his phone buzzed again. This time it was a message, no name, no number, only a single line. "Come alone, 11 a.m., the glass tower, top floor." Attached was a digital keycard access code. Mia saw the message and stepped back. "You're not going, right?" Ethan stared at the phone for a long time, then looked at her. "I need to know who's behind this. Mia, whoever they are, they already know too much." She reached for his arm. "Please, Ethan. You don't even know if it's safe." He gave a faint smile, one that didn't reach his eyes. "Nothing about this is safe anymore." At exactly 11, Ethan entered the glass tower, a skyscraper that shimmered in the morning sun like a blade. The lobby was silent, cold, too clean. When he reached the top floor, the doors opened to a single office, no receptionist, no guards, just silence. At the far end, behind a black marble desk, sat a man in a dark suit, calm and confident. "Mr. Cole," the man said with a smooth voice. "I'm glad you came." Ethan didn't sit. "Who are you?" he asked. The man smiled faintly. "You can call me Marcus Vale. I'm your silent partner." The words hung in the air like smoke. Ethan frowned. "Silent partner? I don't remember ever agreeing to that." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "You didn't have to. I invested when your company first started. Through channels you didn't notice. I believed in your vision, Ethan, but now I need something in return." Ethan's voice hardened. "The briefcase, that was you." Marcus nodded slowly. "A gesture of trust. Consider it a test. You passed. You didn't take it to the police." Ethan felt his stomach tighten. "What do you want from me?" Marcus stood up and walked toward the window, hands clasped behind his back. "I want access," he said. "Your company's data network, your suppliers, your financial chain. You'll help me move a few numbers quietly. Nothing illegal on paper, just invisible." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "You're asking me to launder money?" Marcus turned, his expression still calm. "I'm asking you to stay alive." There was silence. Heavy and cold, Marcus walked closer, his presence sharp and commanding. "You have 2 paths, Ethan. Refuse me and lose everything, or work with me and become part of something much bigger." Ethan's voice trembled. "And if I say no," Marcus smiled, "then I'll find someone who will, and you'll disappear from the business world permanently." Ethan clenched his fists. "You think you can threaten me?" Marcus chuckled softly. "No, Ethan, I don't threaten. I simply plan ahead." When Ethan left the building, the sky had darkened again. The streets looked colder, heavier. He felt trapped between 2 walls, one made of fear, and the other of greed. Back at the office, Mia was waiting for him, pacing near the door. "What happened?" she asked quickly. Ethan sat down, still shaking. "He called himself Marcus Vale. He says he's my silent partner." Mia's eyes widened. "Marcus Vale? Ethan, that name. I've heard it before." She rushed to her computer and began typing. After a few minutes, her face turned pale. "Ethan, he's connected to at least 5 companies that vanished after financial scandals. All their CEOs disappeared or were arrested." Ethan's chest tightened. "So he's a ghost with power," Mia nodded. "He doesn't invest, he controls. You can't trust him." Ethan looked at his reflection in the window. Tired eyes, messy hair, fear hiding under a calm mask. "I don't have a choice," he whispered. "If I don't play along, we'll lose everything." For the next few days, Ethan pretended to cooperate. He signed small documents, adjusted numbers, and followed Marcus's quiet instructions, but each move made him feel like he was sinking deeper into something dark. Mia secretly began investigating Marcus's past, contacting old employees and collecting evidence. Late one night, as Ethan reviewed company reports, Mia stormed into the office, breathless and terrified. "Ethan," she said, "you need to see this." She handed him a printed file, a scanned image of a passport. It was Marcus Vale, but with a different name and nationality. He had changed identities at least 3 times in 10 years. Ethan looked at the papers in disbelief. "So who is he really?" Mia's hands shook. "I don't know. But I think he's part of something much bigger, Ethan. Something dangerous." Before they could speak again, Ethan's phone buzzed on the table. It was a message from Marcus. "Stop digging, Miss Thompson," it read. "Curiosity kills deals." Mia froze. Her face turning pale, Ethan looked up, his eyes wide with fear. "How did he—" Before he could finish, the lights in the office flickered, then went out completely. A moment later, the backup lights came on. Mia was gone. Her chair was still spinning slowly. On the desk lay her phone, cracked and buzzing. A single message glowed on the screen. "Help me." Ethan's hands shook as he read the message. He turned toward the window, staring at his reflection. The man staring back looked like a stranger, desperate. Cornered, broken, the storm outside began again, roaring over the city like an omen. And Ethan realized the truth. He was no longer running a company. He was trapped inside someone else's game. Choice 1. Sign Marcus's deal and keep the company alive. Choice 2. Refuse and try to expose him. The thunder echoed through the night. The office was silent. Only the faint hum of the computers filled the air. Mia's phone still buzzed weakly on the desk, flashing her last message. "Help me." Ethan Cole stood frozen, staring at the empty chair where she had been just moments ago. The room felt smaller, darker, colder. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. He called her name again and again, but there was no reply. The hallway was empty. The elevator showed no movement. Security cameras had gone offline exactly 5 minutes earlier. Ethan's mind raced. This wasn't random. Someone had planned this, someone who wanted Mia gone. He rushed down to the parking lot, his footsteps echoing in the empty stairwell. Mia's car was still there. Parked near the exit, the driver's door was open, and her bag was lying on the ground. Inside, her wallet, her ID, and her laptop were untouched. Only her phone was missing, the same one that had sent the last desperate message. Ethan felt a shiver crawl down his spine. He looked around, half expecting someone to step out of the shadows, but there was no one. Only the flickering yellow light of the parking garage. He climbed into his car, hands trembling, and called the police. They promised to send a unit, but deep down, Ethan already knew they wouldn't find her. An hour later, 2 officers stood beside him, taking notes. One of them, a tired-looking detective named Reed, asked questions in a flat voice. "When was the last time you saw her?" Ethan told him everything, the briefcase, the money, Marcus Vale, the message, the threat. Reed frowned. "Marcus Vale," he repeated. "We've heard that name before." He closed his notebook. "If she's really mixed up with him, Mr. Cole, I'd be careful. People who cross him tend to disappear." When the police left, Ethan sat in his car for a long time. Rain began to fall again, tapping against the windshield. His thoughts were a storm. Guilt, anger, confusion, fear. He couldn't shake the feeling that Mia's disappearance was because of him. She had warned him not to trust Marcus. And now she was gone. He drove through the city aimlessly, the streets glowing with neon reflections. Every corner seemed to hide a shadow. Every face looked suspicious. Finally, he stopped near the old docks, where Mia's phone signal had last appeared. The night air was cold and heavy with fog. Broken containers and rusty cranes loomed like silent monsters, and there, near the water, he saw it, Mia's car, abandoned and empty. The driver's door still open inside. A single object sat on the seat, a small metal badge, engraved with 2 letters. MV. Ethan picked it up slowly. Marcus Vale. The realization hit him like a punch. He stepped back, his breath fogging in the cold air. Someone was watching him. He could feel it, that heavy, invisible gaze from the darkness. He turned quickly, scanning the docks, and that's when he saw it. A figure standing far away, half hidden by the fog. Tall still, dressed in a long coat, the man didn't move. "Just watched," Ethan shouted. "Where's Mia?" But the figure turned and walked into the fog, disappearing as silently as he had appeared. Ethan ran after him, slipping on the wet ground. He followed the footsteps, but they led nowhere. Only silence and the echo of the ocean remained. Then he noticed something shining near a pile of crates, a small USB drive wrapped in black tape. He picked it up, his pulse racing. Someone had left it there on purpose. Back in his car, he plugged it into his laptop. The screen flickered and loaded a series of video files, secret meetings, encrypted transactions and voice recordings, and in the background of one recording, he saw Marcus Vale sitting beside powerful businessmen. But that wasn't all. The documents showed something even more terrifying. Forged accounts with Ethan's name on them. Fake signatures, fake transfers. Everything designed to make him look guilty. He stared at the screen, his mouth dry. Marcus wasn't helping him. Marcus was setting him up. Every document, every number, every file. It was all pointing back to Ethan Cole. He was being turned into the fall guy. Ethan slammed the laptop shut, his breath shaky. He needed help. Someone outside Marcus's reach. He decided to meet Detective Reed again. But when he arrived at the station, Reed was gone. The desk sergeant told him Reed had been reassigned suddenly that morning. Ethan knew what that meant. Marcus had silenced him too. As Ethan left the station, his phone buzzed again. A new message, this time from an unknown email address. "You're in danger, Ethan. I can help you. Meet me tomorrow. 10 p.m., Pier 47. Come alone." He stared at the message for a long time. Could this be a trap? Or was it Mia trying to reach him through someone else? He wanted to believe she was still alive. That she had escaped somehow. He whispered to himself. "Please, Mia, be safe." That night he couldn't sleep. Every sound felt like footsteps outside his door. Every passing car looked like a shadow waiting for him. When morning came, he went back to the office. The briefcase was still there, hidden beneath the floorboard. He took it out and opened it again, staring at the money. $500,000, and once a temptation, now a curse. He realized Marcus's money had started all of this. It wasn't just business anymore. It was war, silent, invisible, but deadly. He needed to know the truth about Marcus. He needed to find Mia. And he needed to survive long enough to do both. At sunset, he packed his laptop, the USB drive, and the briefcase. He looked at the city through the window, glowing, breathing, unaware of the battle beneath its lights. He whispered, "Whatever you're hiding, Marcus, I'll find it." Outside, thunder rolled again. The storm was returning, and Ethan Cole was ready to walk straight into it. Choice 1, gather evidence and report everything to the authorities. Choice 2, play along with Marcus to protect the company and find Mia. Ethan stepped into the rain, vanishing into the night. The rain fell in slow, heavy drops as Ethan Cole drove through the city streets. The USB drive lay beside him on the passenger seat, glowing faintly under the dashboard light. Every few seconds he glanced at it. As if it might disappear, Mia was gone, Detective Reed was missing, and Marcus Vale was pulling every string behind the scenes. Ethan felt trapped in a nightmare he couldn't wake from. He parked his car in an underground lot far from his office. He couldn't risk being watched anymore. Inside an abandoned cafe near the river, he set up his laptop, inserted the USB, and waited. The files loaded one by one, each name more dangerous than the last. Politicians, CEOs, bankers, all connected to something called the Silent Network. At the center of every transaction was Marcus Vale. But the final file made Ethan's blood run cold. It was a forged document, a transfer from a fake account under Cole Dynamics. The signature was his company seal too. It looked real, too real. If this reached the authorities, he would go to prison. Marcus wasn't just manipulating him. He was building the perfect scapegoat. Ethan closed his eyes and leaned back. He realized now that everything, the briefcase, the money, the deal, had been a setup from the start. Marcus didn't want a partner. He wanted a name to take the fall when everything collapsed. And Mia, she must have found out. That's why she vanished. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. A new message appeared on his screen, an encrypted email with no sender. It read, "You're in deeper than you think. I can help you, but you must trust me. Meet me tomorrow night." Alone. The message ended with a time and address, a quiet spot near the old train yard. Ethan hesitated. It could be a trap or it could be his only chance to survive. He closed the laptop and whispered to himself, I don't have much choice. And the next night, fog rolled across the city like a living thing. The train yard was dark and silent, filled with broken rails and rusting carriages. Ethan walked carefully, clutching the USB drive in his pocket. A distant light flickered near an old station building. A woman stepped into view, tall, wearing a black coat, her face hidden under a hood. Ethan Cole, she said softly. Her voice was calm, confident. My name is Elena Voss, and I used to work with Marcus Vale. Ethan froze. Work with him? He asked. Then why are you here? Elena looked around before answering. Because I know what he's doing to you. I know how he builds his traps. Fake partners, fake accounts, false documents, and then… Silence. Her tone darkened at that last word. Ethan's pulse quickened. Then you know where Mia is, he said quickly. Elena's eyes flickered with something like guilt. She was close to finding proof. Marcus couldn't allow that. But I don't know if she's alive. Ethan's heart dropped. He stepped back, shaking his head. I need to end this, Elena. I can't let him destroy everything I've built. Elena nodded slowly. Then you'll need the ledger. It's the key to everything. She pulled out a small photo from her pocket. A thick black notebook with golden edges. Marcus keeps it in his private vault. It holds the names, the numbers, and every transaction made by the silent network. If you get it, you can bring him down. Ethan frowned. And if I fail? Elena's voice dropped to a whisper. Then you'll vanish like the rest. They stood in silence for a moment, the fog curling around them like smoke. Then Ethan asked the question that haunted him most. Why are you helping me? Elena looked away. Because I helped create him, Ethan. And I need to fix what I started. Before she left, she handed him a small key card, marked with a silver symbol, the same one he'd seen on Marcus's briefcase. This will get you into the vault, but you'll have one chance only. Once he realizes you're inside, he'll come for you. And with that, she disappeared into the fog. Ethan returned to his car, heart pounding. He stared at the keycard, the USB, and the photo of the ledger. For the first time, he had a real chance to fight back. But he also knew Marcus was always one step ahead. The next day, Ethan went to his office as if nothing had happened. Marcus called him soon after, his smooth voice echoing through the phone. Ethan, my friend, Marcus said cheerfully. You've been quiet. I hope you're not doing something foolish. Ethan forced a calm tone. Just busy keeping the company alive, Marcus laughed. Low and sharp, good. I'd hate to see you make a mistake. When the call ended, Ethan checked the time. He had less than 12 hours before Marcus's next board meeting. That would be his window. He gathered his tools, his laptop and the key card. He knew breaking into Marcus's vault meant risking his life. But he was done being afraid as night fell. Ethan entered Marcus's corporate tower. He moved quietly through the empty halls. The cameras had been looped, a trick he'd learned from Mia. He reached the sub-level elevator and swiped the silver key card. The door slid open with a low hiss, revealing a corridor lined with steel. At the end of it, a heavy black door with biometric locks. He took a deep breath and pressed his hand against the scanner. The door clicked open. Inside was a small, cold room filled with metal drawers and safes, and there, under a single light, lay the ledger. Black, gold-edged, and waiting. Ethan stepped forward, his fingers brushing the cover. But before he could grab it, the lights flickered. A voice came through the intercom, smooth. Amused, chilling, Mr. Cole, Marcus said. I told you not to dig too deep. Ethan froze. He looked up, his heart racing. The vault door slammed shut behind him. Locking tight, then a faint hiss, followed by the smell of smoke. Ethan coughed, eyes burning, as sparks began to dance across the metal walls. He reached for the ledger and clutched it tightly. Through the rising haze, he heard Marcus's voice one last time. Now you know too much, Ethan. Goodbye. The room filled with blinding light. And the choice 1. Trust Elena and escape with the ledger. Choice 2. Call Marcus and make a new deal before it's too late. Thunder rolled in the distance as the story continued deeper into the shadows. The air was thick with smoke and fear as Ethan Cole stumbled through the narrow vent of Marcus's burning vault. His lungs screamed for air, his fingers bleeding from the jagged metal edges. The flames roared behind him, swallowing everything and the safes, the documents, the truth, but in his trembling hands, he still clutched the black ledger, the proof that could destroy Marcus Vale. He dropped down into a maintenance tunnel. Gasping, the dim emergency lights flickered. Painting his face in red shadows, he looked at the ledger, its golden edges singed, the pages still intact. He had escaped death by seconds, but he knew Marcus would never stop hunting him now. Outside, rain poured down again, washing the ash from his coat. Ethan leaned against the wall, shaking, his mind spinning. He thought about Mia, about Elena's warning, and about the strange message that had started it all. Now there was no turning back. He drove to a small motel on the edge of the city, far from Marcus's reach. The sign flickered weakly above the entrance. Vacancy inside, the old air smelled of dust and rust. But it was shelter. Ethan laid the ledger on the bed and opened it carefully. Inside were names, numbers, coded transfers. Everything the silent network had done in the last 5 years. Politicians paid off, companies destroyed, people vanished, and all of it under one name, Marcus Vale. But one detail stopped him cold. At the very end of the book, on the last page, was a strange symbol and a phrase written in red ink. The debt must be paid, even in silence, before he could think. His burner phone buzzed. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. Ethan Cole, a deep voice said, smooth and cold. You have something that belongs to me. It was Marcus. How did you... Ethan started. Marcus chuckled. You didn't think I'd let you crawl through my walls without watching, did you? Ethan's eyes darted around the dark motel room. Searching for cameras, Marcus continued. Let's stop pretending, Ethan. You're a smart man. And I hate wasting potential. Bring me the ledger. And I'll make you rich again. We both win. Ethan's grip tightened on the phone. You tried to kill me, he said. Voice shaking with anger, Marcus's tone stayed calm. Business, Ethan, nothing personal. I warned you to stay loyal, but you can fix this. Meet me. One last time. The line went dead. Ethan stared at the phone for a long moment. Marcus wanted a meeting, or maybe a final trap. But if Ethan could record it, get him to confess, it might finally be over. He opened the ledger again and noticed a small metallic thread sewn into the cover. Curious, he pulled it slightly, and a hidden compartment popped open. Inside was a tiny microchip, smaller than a fingernail. He plugged it into his laptop. A hidden folder appeared instantly. Vault access protocols, blueprints, encrypted codes, and one video file labeled Project Shadow. He clicked play. The footage was grainy, showing Marcus standing beside a table in a dimly lit room. Around him sat powerful men and women, faces blurred but voices unmistakably real. Marcus's voice echoed through the speakers. The silent network doesn't just control money. We control choice, every debt, every secret. Every decision made in fear belongs to us. Ethan's stomach turned. It wasn't just about him or his company. It was about control. Marcus was building an empire that thrived on people's silence. And he, Ethan Cole, had almost become part of it. He packed the ledger, the chip, and his laptop into a waterproof bag. If Marcus wanted a meeting, Ethan would give him one. On his terms, the next evening, he drove to the abandoned observatory at the city's edge, the meeting place Marcus had sent coordinates for. The road was empty, silent except for the hum of the rain. Lightning flashed in the distance as Ethan parked and stepped out. He could see the broken dome of the observatory. Half covered in ivy inside, candles flickered in a circle. And at the center, Marcus Vale, calm, smiling, like a man greeting an old friend. Ethan, Marcus said warmly, you made it. I was beginning to think you'd lost your courage. Ethan's voice was low. I should have known from the start. You don't build partnerships. You build prisons. Marcus chuckled softly. But prisons are useful, Ethan. They keep the dangerous people in line. Ethan dropped the waterproof bag onto the floor. The ledger, the proof, everything's here, he said. But I'm not giving it to you for free. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Oh? You want money again? Ethan shook his head. I want your confession. Every name, every deal recorded, Marcus laughed. You think I'll hand you that? You don't even know who you're talking to. He stepped closer, his shadow cutting through the candlelight. I built this city's silence, Ethan, and you were supposed to help me keep it. Ethan subtly pressed a small button in his pocket, the voice recorder he'd hidden. Marcus kept talking unaware. But instead, you ran, you stole from me, and now you expect to walk away? Ethan's heart pounded. If you're so powerful, Marcus, why are you afraid of the truth? He asked for the first time. Marcus's smile faltered. Because truth, he said quietly, is a weapon too. Suddenly, headlights flared outside, cutting through the rain. Dozens of black cars pulled up. Marcus's men. Ethan turned toward the exit. But Marcus raised a hand. Leaving so soon? He asked, smirking. Ethan backed away, gripping the recorder. Marcus nodded slightly. Give me the ledger. And I might let you live. But before Ethan could answer, a gunshot cracked through the air. The candles flickered. Marcus stumbled. Clutching his shoulder, from the shadows, Elena Voss stepped into the light. Holding a pistol, her voice was cold. Sorry, Marcus. The game's over. Ethan stared at her, stunned. Elena, how did you find me? She smiled faintly. I never stopped watching you. Marcus laughed weakly, even as blood soaked his sleeve. You think this ends with me? He hissed. The network doesn't die. It replaces. Ethan looked from Marcus to Elena, unsure whom to trust. The rain beat harder against the glass dome, thunder rolling above them. Then Elena said quietly, We have to go now. Before his men get inside, Ethan hesitated. Looking at Marcus one last time, Marcus smirked. Run, Ethan. But remember, in every choice has a cost. As Ethan and Elena escaped into the storm, the observatory lights exploded behind them. The fire spread quickly, devouring everything in gold and red. The ledger pressed against Ethan's chest, warm, heavy, and alive with secrets. But somewhere deep down he knew Marcus was right. This wasn't over, and it was only changing shape. Choice 1, trust Elena and destroy the ledger, ending the silent network for good. Choice 2, keep the ledger and expose everything. Risking his own life in the process, the storm raged on. The storm chased Ethan and Elena through the dark forest roads, lightning flashing across the wet windshield. The car's tires splashed through puddles as thunder echoed like war drums. Behind them, the observatory burned, a collapsing monument to Marcus Vale's empire. But Ethan knew better. Men like Marcus didn't die that easily. Elena kept her eyes on the rearview mirror. He won't stop, Ethan, she said, her voice steady but low. Even if that fire killed him, someone else will take his place. Ethan glanced at the black ledger in his lap. Then we make sure there's no one left to take it, he said. Elena shook her head. Destroying it isn't enough. You have to expose it. But that's exactly what the network expects you to do. They drove for miles until the city lights vanished behind them. At dawn, they reached a small cabin near the cliffs, Elena's safe house. Surrounded by fog and silence inside, the air smelled of salt and metal. Ethan sat by the small table, spreading out the contents of the ledger. Dozens of pages filled with coded numbers and strange symbols. He frowned. It's like a cipher, he muttered. Elena nodded. It is. Marcus designed it himself, each name, each payment, locked behind what he called the Betrayal code. Only 2 people know how to open it. Ethan looked up. Who's the second person? Elena's eyes flickered. Me, she said quietly. He froze. You can read it? I can, she said, but unlocking it will send an alert. The network will know exactly where we are. Ethan thought for a long moment. Then we'll have to be fast, he said. Elena gave a bitter smile. You're still thinking like a businessman, Ethan. This isn't a boardroom deal, it's a war. While she connected her encrypted laptop, Ethan stared out the window. The ocean stretched endlessly below the cliffs, waves smashing against stone. He wondered how much of his old life was already gone. His company, his reputation, his name, he whispered to himself. I just wanted to save my business. Elena looked up from her screen. And you walked into the biggest financial conspiracy in the world, she said softly. Her fingers moved fast over the keys, unlocking layers of encryption. Each code revealed a new layer of corruption, like governments, weapons deals, entire corporations built on silence. Ethan's jaw tightened. All this time, people thought Marcus was just a genius investor. Elena nodded. He wasn't, but his real business was control, not profit. Suddenly, the laptop beeped sharply. Elena froze. They found us, she whispered. Ethan's pulse spiked. How fast? She unplugged the cable, grabbed the ledger, and said, minutes. Maybe less. Outside, the sound of approaching engines cut through the rain. Black SUVs appeared on the cliff road, headlights slicing through the mist. Ethan grabbed the ledger. We can't outrun them on foot, he said. Elena reached into a hidden compartment under the floor and pulled out a small black case. Inside were 2 parachutes. Ethan's eyes widened. You're kidding, Elena smirked. Welcome to my world. They burst out through the back door as bullets shattered the windows. Ethan strapped the parachute on. Heart racing, Elena handed him the ledger. Don't lose it, she said. It's worth more than either of us. They leapt off the cliff just as a fireball exploded behind them. The force threw them forward into the fog. Wind howled past Ethan's ears as the world turned into chaos. White fog, black water, and roaring wind. He pulled the cord, the parachute snapped open, and the ocean appeared below. Cold and endless moments later, he crashed into the waves. The cold hit like knives. He struggled to swim, holding the waterproof bag tight. When he finally reached the shore, shivering and gasping, Elena was already waiting. Her hair was soaked, her hands trembling slightly, but she was alive. Ethan fell beside her, laughing weakly. Next time, he said between breaths. We take the stairs. Elena smiled faintly. You did good. Cole. They found shelter in an abandoned lighthouse on the rocks. Inside, the wind howled through broken windows, but at least they were safe for now. Elena lit a lantern and sat beside him. You know, she said quietly, you could still walk away from this. Ethan looked at her. Can you? Her silence was answer enough. He pulled the ledger from his bag. So what now? Elena hesitated before answering. There's one last way to expose them. The network's central node. It's hidden in the city under a shell company called Neuralis Industries. It's where all the black money flows. If we upload the ledger there, it'll go public, but, Ethan pressed. Elena met his eyes. It will also trigger the betrayal code. Once the upload begins, every person tied to the network becomes a target, including anyone who's ever dealt with them. Ethan frowned. That includes you, doesn't it? She nodded. And you? He sat quietly for a long time, staring at the flickering lantern. All he'd wanted was to save his company. But now the choice before him was much bigger. Expose the truth and destroy everything, including himself. Or run, and let Marcus's world of silence live on. The wind howled outside as if the storm itself waited for his answer. Finally, Ethan looked at Elena and said, If truth has a price, I'm ready to pay it. Elena nodded slowly, her expression unreadable. Then we finish this, she said. She reached into her pocket and handed him a small flash drive. This is the key to the upload once it starts. There's no stopping it. Ethan took it, feeling the weight of his decision in his palm. He didn't notice the flicker of doubt in Elena's eyes, or the tiny red light blinking under her sleeve on the transmitter, silently sending their coordinates. As the storm raged outside, Ethan believed they were on the same side. But in the shadows of the lighthouse, betrayal had already begun. Choice 1. Trust Elena and begin the upload to expose the truth. Choice 2. Hide the ledger and find another way to fight the network. The lantern flickered, the sea roared. The storm had not stopped. It raged across the cliffs like the world itself wanted to wash everything clean. Inside the old lighthouse, the flickering lantern threw long shadows on the cracked walls. Ethan Cole sat at the table, the ledger open before him, the flash drive in his hand beside him. Elena Voss worked silently, her face half hidden in the dim light. Hours had passed since their escape from Marcus's men. Neither of them had spoken much, both lost in thought. Ethan's hands trembled as he stared at the small drive. One upload, he said quietly, and everything changes. Elena nodded. Once it starts, there's no turning back, Ethan. The network will burn him, but so will everything connected to it. He leaned back in the creaking chair. Images flashed through his mind. His ruined company, Mia's disappearance, Marcus's lies. The lives destroyed in silence, he whispered. They built this world on fear and money. Maybe it's time to tear it down. Elena didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft, almost sad. Do you believe in redemption, Ethan? He looked up at her, confused. After everything I've done, I have to, he said. Elena gave a small, distant smile, but didn't meet his eyes. The sound of wind filled the room, whistling through the cracks. Ethan opened his laptop, connected the flash drive, and began the upload sequence. Lines of code filled the screen. Data, names, accounts, everything from the silent network. The progress bar crawled upward slowly. 2%, 5%, 9%. Elena stood by the window, scanning the darkness. Then, A faint red light blinked across the room. Ethan frowned. "What is that?" Elena froze for half a second before turning. "It's nothing," she said quickly. "Probably a sensor." But Ethan's instincts told him otherwise. He walked toward the light. It was a tiny transmitter, half hidden under the table, its red LED blinking steadily. His voice dropped. "Elena, what did you do?" She didn't move, her expression unreadable. Then she sighed. "You weren't supposed to find that yet." Ethan felt his heart sink. "You sold me out?" Elena's voice broke slightly. "I didn't want to, Ethan, but the network has my sister. I couldn't let them kill her." The words hit like a bullet. "You led them here," he whispered. Before she could answer, the lighthouse shook violently. Outside, engines roared. Lights cut through the fog. Black SUVs climbing the cliff road. Ethan grabbed the ledger and ran to the console. "The upload was at 72%, Elena shouted. "We have to go. They'll destroy everything." Ethan glared at her. "I'm finishing this." She stepped forward, gun in hand, tears glistening in her eyes. "Please, Ethan, don't make me choose." Ethan stood still, his voice cold. "You already did." The first explosion ripped through the lower level of the lighthouse. Concrete dust rained from the ceiling. The lantern crashed to the floor, shattering. Ethan's laptop screen flickered, but the upload continued. 85%, 90%, 94%. Bullets shattered the windows. Wind and rain howled through the room. Marcus's voice echoed faintly through a megaphone outside. "Ethan Cole, you've done enough damage. Hand over the ledger and I'll spare your life." Ethan looked out the window. Marcus stood under a black umbrella, alive, his white suit untouched by the rain. The devil himself had survived the flames. Elena lowered her gun slightly, her voice trembling. "He'll kill us both." Ethan took a step back toward the laptop. "Then we make sure he has nothing left to kill for." Marcus's men began climbing the stairs, their boots pounding like drums. Elena turned toward the door. "Gun raised, buy yourself time," she shouted. Ethan nodded and kept his eyes on the screen. 97%, 98%, 9%. Then the screen went black. A single word appeared. "Authorization required, voice confirmation needed." Ethan froze. Marcus's voice thundered through the broken window. "Without me, you can't finish it, Ethan. It's my code, my design." He stepped closer, smiling. "Give me the ledger, and maybe I'll let you die quietly." Ethan's mind raced. Then he remembered the hidden audio file he'd recorded during their meeting. Marcus's voice, clear and perfect, saying, "The silent network doesn't just control money. We control choice." He played the recording, the system beeped. Voice confirmed. Upload complete. The screen flashed bright white. Data poured through every open channel, flooding the global servers, names, accounts, evidence. Everything Marcus built was going public. Marcus's face twisted in rage. "You fool!" he screamed. His men opened fire. Elena dove in front of Ethan, taking a bullet to the shoulder. She collapsed against him. "Go," she whispered. "End it." Ethan dragged her behind the console as the lighthouse began to collapse. Flames climbed the staircase. Glass shattered under the pressure of the storm. Ethan looked at her, young blood staining her sleeve, eyes fading. "Why did you save me?" he asked. She smiled weakly. "Because you believed in something again." He squeezed her hand and whispered, "Hold on." But it was too late. Elena's breath slowed, her eyes closing for the last time. Outside, Marcus screamed orders, but it was useless. Every screen across the city was lighting up. News channels, networks, social media. The truth was out. The silent network was no longer silent. Ethan picked up the ledger one last time, its pages fluttering in the wind. Then he threw it into the fire, watching it burn. The flames roared like freedom. Marcus climbed the final steps, coughing, furious. "This isn't over, Cole," he shouted. Ethan turned toward him. "It is for you," he said quietly. Lightning struck the top of the lighthouse. The explosion ripped through the tower, sending fire and debris into the storm. When the smoke cleared, only ashes and silence remained. Days later, headlines filled every screen. "Global banking scandal exposed. The silent network crumbles." Ethan Cole's name was never mentioned. He had disappeared like a ghost. Some said he died that night. Others whispered he was still out there, the man who destroyed the world's most powerful secret. But only one thing was certain: every choice had a cost. And Ethan Cole had paid it in full, ending choices. He thinks Ethan exposes the truth and becomes a legend no one remembers. Alternative path. If Ethan had trusted Marcus, the world would have stayed silent forever, and he chose first choice. The rain finally stopped. The ocean calm again, and somewhere in the ruins of the lighthouse, the wind still whispered one word: freedom.